Yeah, and I
thought it was back.
2 weeks ago, depending on what you guys want to do.
What? No. Sure. Karma.
Yes.
Karma? Yes. Okay. What?
She just graduated.
Oh.
Actually, with a master's.
That's right. Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
Do you know what time we're doing anything on Friday? My computer's
Imagine that.
I'm out of it. Okay. Thanks.
Did you reset it yet?
Start talking.
I can move all that.
I can rattle some stuff right to you. Oh goodness. Are you sure you want this? Oh gosh.
I can't change it, I just need to know. Okay. She had sent me an email.
Everybody ready? All right, it is 7:31. I will call this meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Terry Wycombe,
Here.
Vice Mayor Steve Sanger,
Here.
Councilmember Darrell Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Tanya Lumen,
Here.
Councilmember Bruce Seeloff,
Here.
Councilmember Jacqueline Wells, Councilmember Chris Weisenberg.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Do we need to make an addition or not?
We can, if you want to put it there, sure.
Yeah, I think we should, if we're going to do it.
So we'll be moving to approve the May 7th, 2024 City Council agenda as amended, and the amendment is to add under, let me find out where it's at here. Under new business, it won't be on your agendas, but it will be E, and it's for a motion to approve a 24-hour catering permit for the Rifleman Club Bar.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended for the May 7th, 2024 meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Do yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Okay, thank you. Let me get this caught up here, sorry. All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. Vice Mayor Sanger.
I move to approve the consent agenda of May 7th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda of May 7th, 2024 as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is citizens' participation. This is a time set aside by resolution number 2C-1996. It's a time for the public to comment. You have up to 5 minutes and about things that are not on our agenda. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this time? And if so, please come to the podium and state your name and write it down.
How's the thing? Good. Hello, my name is Debbie Wycombe. I'm here to talk about the deer, but I would like to provide some background first. All of the former council members and the city manager and attorney, except for Mr. Garner, came to our birthday party in 2022, along with Lynn, Chief Ward, Myra, and about 100 other people, and saw that our efforts and thousands of dollars have resulted in what I consider to be our very beautiful backyard. I know Councilmember Seeloff and Sanger have also seen it, but I don't think Tom or Panita were here, nor has Tanya Lumen seen it yet. Aside from our backyard, which is protected somewhat, as it turns out, by a 6-foot wooden deer fence, you may know that in 2008, a deer came uninvited into our yard and stomped our 6-pound Chihuahua Cujo to death. At that time, I formed a petition, and about 100 people signed it, asking that something be done about the deer population. It took about 6 years, I think. The city, along with the Game and Fish, formed the Urban Deer Committee, which ultimately led to the culling of the deer per Game and Fish Authority. I believe that worked really well until 2023, I believe. Upon learning that there may be issues regarding the subject, I attended every deer meeting and voiced my opinions with which Chief Ward disagreed with, stating the numbers didn't prove the need. I have lived here for 40-some years, and the chief had only been here for a few months, and I believed he was wrong, as I also seen or heard about some of my friends and neighbors threatened, and the deer have also destroyed beautification efforts citywide. We agreed to disagree and to become friends, but ultimately resulted in the police department no longer being a part of such culling, and the deer became overpopulated again. I think a few months ago, a couple of men were appointed to the committee in an attempt to revive it and get done what needs to be done. As of yet, I have seen no action, but do not know why. So Sunday, 2 days ago, I took my dog, my new dog, which we acquired when he was born about 13 years ago, and he weighs about 15 pounds outside. He has arthritis and can barely walk sometimes, falls over all the time, and usually needs to be carried up and down the steps of our deck. While I was checking out the new growth of my flowers, I looked up to see a deer with her head down going towards my dog. I yelled and then got between the deer and my dog. I grabbed the closest thing, which was a metal bar, and banged it on our stainless steel slide. That got her attention, along with my husband, who thought he had heard gunshots, and came running outside. He told me to distance myself from the doe because he knew I was in a potential danger, and to take Diego inside. He opened up a couple of gates, and we scared the deer out the gate. When I went back inside, I found our dog shaking and trembling. I called the police department so that the numbers regarding this activity would be there for the chief, as I'm sure a lot of people don't report for one reason or another. The dispatcher told me she had just seen the officers on another call and that she would send them when they were done with the other call. I told her to have them come to the front door and I would be inside and would show them where it had occurred. Roughly 20 minutes later, an officer from the PD called. When he asked me if he was at my front door, he said no, he was just calling. I told him, well, that was a shame because I wanted to show him this little heart-shaped box that contained my dog's ashes. It had been stomped to death years ago. I then told him the story and that I wanted to make sure I was one of the numbers that the chief was looking for so he would know, and anyone else that would join to take that on. I asked him to send me the police report, and he told me that he couldn't just send it, would have to request it. He wasn't rude, but I felt he was a little dismissive, and I'm not sure he understood everything I wanted to say, so I decided to say it to you. I made a records request this morning for the report, along with a request of how many citations had been issued for illegal feeding the deer, and also for how many reports there had been of aggressive behavior by deer on citizens' pets. I am currently waiting to find out the cost of such, and depending on that, I may or may not acquire them. But regardless of the numbers, something must be done. You may be working on it such as we speak, and I look forward to finding a solution. Summer is almost here, and so are more deer. If I had mistreated any of my animals, I may be in jail, facing some heavy fines. Since we unfortunately cannot put deer in prison, let's just get them out of town one way or another. Again, this is my little dog, the victim of a deer 16 years ago. If it happens again, I'm gonna need a bigger box, and it won't be for my dog. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the council? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council persons. My name is Donald Gene Secor. I live at 402
Please
10th Street.
sign in, would you please?
Oh, sign in?
Yeah, just so we have it for our
Oh,
records.
yeah. And so I am here to, was that previous conversation a little bit about policing here? Did I hear that right?
You
Miss
heard it
Lee?
all.
About policing?
If you want to have a conversation with her, do it later. You're addressing us.
Well, I'm just wondering, that was about policing, right?
You,
So I'm here to talk about that also. I received a visit from Chief of Police. I had the pleasure of meeting him. Never met him before. And I was given a pink, I don't think I need to show it to anybody any closer than that. There's nothing on it. What would you make of this if this was handed to you? I didn't know what to make of it. No date, but according to the Rawlins ordinance, criminal trespass, blah, blah, woof, woof. But I asked the chief, who was very polite and kind, and I was to him too, is there any PC on this? Where did this come from? Criminal trespass? Where? At the hospital. You're informing me I can't go to the hospital unless I have a medical emergency? You know, a lot of people in this town do not even patronize this hospital. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. I don't mean to talk down to you. But here I am with a very kindly chief of police, never met Mr. Ward before, and a patrol officer, I don't remember his name. And I'm not to criminally trespass. I'll tell you what I did that day. I went to Memorial Hospital and delivered a small bouquet of pink roses to a person who's a patient at the hospital. And 2 hours, less than 3 hours later, I'm handed this. As they say, WTF. Have you ever been given a criminal trespass order or notification? I was informed verbally by our PD, the chief of police. But have you ever been given something like that for taking flowers to someone at a hospital? I would like to ask the council to consider requesting the city attorney contact me about this so I can see what I don't see. Anybody see any writing on that? I know my eyesight's not that good, but I couldn't read it with a magnifying glass. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the council? All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the Community Builder Award, and I would like to have the committee for that. The City of Rawlins Volunteer Committee, please come forward and present that award.
The Community Builder Award is a monthly award the city presents to local individuals, businesses, and organizations for their volunteer service, sponsorship, promotion of programs and events, outstanding service in the interest of the city, and for other contributions significant to Rawlins' quality of life. The volunteer committee would like to present the May 2024 Community Builder Award to Williams. And to tell us more about that is Pam Thayer.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. So excited to be giving the committee the award to Williams Field Services. As we all know, they promote the city, they actually sponsor things in the city, and they also do a lot of service in the city, such as the Boys and Girls Club, downtown projects, Alzheimer's walks. They just gave a large donation to the University of Wyoming. And I'm taking a statement from their vice president. So there was an article about their volunteer week in 2023. They don't have their stats yet for 2024. But Williams loved to, this is a quote from Candace Fly Lee, the vice president general manager of the company's operations in the Rocky Mountains. Williams loves to connect with the communities where we live and work. This is also a great opportunity for our employees to get together and bond in a different way outside of work. Williams volunteers build on the company's long tradition of being a good neighbor through employee volunteerism and financial support, and they do just that. In 2023, they touched over 20 states, and just in the week, again, I don't have stats for this year, but just for the volunteer week in 2023, they did over 120 volunteer projects. So also, I had asked them, like, what are their hopes for the community of Rawlins and just to continue to be a better place. And what they are most proud of is it's all about the kids. And so we have Joshua, Tony, and Katie here from Williams, and I'm going to ask them to come up.
Thank you for having us, Council. Like she mentioned, there's many things that we do throughout everything, and one of our favorite things is when we get to go to the elementary school. We help them in the morning, get them out, and get the kids out, so that way, the parents are going through and they have a smiling face when they get to school. A lot of our guys will wear different hats during different holidays just to bring cheer to all the kids. And we also, one of my favorite things is throughout the town is every year we all get together and we take one side of over there by City Market and Walmart, and we just pick up all the trash. And we do our business here in town, and we have a lot of people that work for us and live here in town, and I think it's our responsibility to make sure that it's a good place for all. It's a good place for us all to be, and a place for us to be proud. And I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity. Thank you.
So we would like to present, they picked Pet Partners as their organization. So, and then we were going to do a picture, so let me move this back to Josh. You don't want to hold the check? Oh, this way? Yeah, then the counsel's in the background. Just come back.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Okay, all this short, people have to come out. No, I'm good. I'm good right here. Okay. He's perfect.
Beautiful.
Can you see everybody?
I can see everybody. Okay, cheese. Thank you again, Williams.
Thank you. That is an award well-deserved, and thank you for what you do for our community. It's much appreciated. All right. The next thing on our agenda is a presentation of the Employee of the First Quarter of 2024 award. And I will turn the floor over to you. Tom.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council. Tonight, I am very honored tonight to be able to present to you the employee of our first quarter of 2024. The employee of the quarter is Candido Cardenas, and Candido could not be with us tonight unless he snuck in. In his recommendation for employee of the quarter, it states that in his 9 years of working with the city, Candido has shown up to be an invaluable asset in the Parks Department. He works great to be part of a team, but is often found completing tasks and going above and beyond on his own. He has helped implement parks projects over the years of service, as well as maintaining after them. We can all appreciate how hardworking and consistent Candido is, and we are very lucky to have him. And I know that I pride myself on being a hard worker, and Candido's the only one that just worked me into the ground, literally. He just is such an asset to the city. You can always see him in our parks, raking and different things, and I'm just really proud to have him as our employee of the quarter.
Thank you, Tom. Councilman Weisenberg?
I just want to say thank you for the recognition of him, right? I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, a month ago or something, I was driving by Washington Park heading to the house, and literally I had to call Tom on the phone. This gentleman raked the pine needles out of the park by hand, loaded them in the bed of the truck, and was taking them out of there, right, by hand. And it looked beautiful when he was done. He takes tremendous pride in everything he does. 2 years ago, I believe I was driving by the cemetery, and the gentleman was over there removing all the branches by himself. So, true statement, he works by himself a lot, and he's part or none. I don't think anybody could outwork that guy as far as I've seen, honestly. So thank you for recognizing him.
I've heard that from a lot of people that work at the city, and thanks, Tom. And I wish he was here so we could cheer him on a little bit more. But I'm sure you'll pass it on. All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is a proclamation. This is from the city of Rawlins. It's a proclamation for National Police Week. Whereas the Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas law enforcement officers are the guardians of life and property, defenders of the individual right to be free, warriors in the war against crime, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Rawlins Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service, now therefore I, Terry L. Wycombe, Mayor of the City of Rawlins, call upon all citizens of Rawlins and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as National Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established themselves as invaluable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Rawlins to observe the 16th of May 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their communities or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. So dated this 7th day of May 2024.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you very much for your proclamation. In 1962, then President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as Peace Officer Memorial Day. Over the years, this has spread out to be a week of remembrance for the peace officers, law enforcement officers who have laid down their lives to protect their communities. So far this year, 2024, 56 American law enforcement officers have given their lives in the protection of their communities. During the history of our country, that number is 26,614. The Rawlins Police Department has been protecting the city of Rawlins since 1886, and we have lost 3 officers that have fallen in the line of duty. On May 16th, next Thursday, we will be having a memorial service on the front steps of the Rawlins Police Department at 14:30 hours, 2:30 p.m. There'll be a short ceremony out front and then an open house inside. The public is welcome, and I'd love to see all of you if you can make it. Thank you for your proclamation.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. All right. The next thing on our agenda is reports and information, and so the Planning and Zoning Commission update to the council. I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and
Janita.
City Council. My name is Janita Carlton, and I'm here to report on the activities of the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2023. In 2023, we had 7 members on the commission. Anita Mayberry-Nave, Richard Wilson, Patty Hayes, Chris Weissenberg, Cheryl Bailey, myself, and Jeff Askins. In last March, Jeff was elected as our chairperson, and Richard Wilson was elected as our vice chair. We had 4 minor home occupancy applications and 2 special use applications in 2023. Would you like me to go over those applications, or is that?
If you can do it quickly, that'd be great. I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah, I can do it.
I don't want to torture you.
I appreciate that. One of the special use applications was from Home Express Delivery Services, and that was going to go out where Tractor Supply is, and we did approve that application, but the business never materialized. The second special use permit was by Wyoming Downs LLC for a parimutuel simulcasting of live horse racing, historical horse race terminals, and an off-track betting site located at 1602 Inverness Boulevard. That's Peppermill. And we approved that application also. The minor home occupation applications were from Terry and Debbie Wycombe, from Jermaine Flanagan, from Mauricio Sands, and from David Ross. Those are businesses operating out of their homes, and we approved all of those applications also. And then we've been working on Title 19, and we had a co-meeting with the Board of Adjustments on Title 19. So that's what we did in 2023, and we're chugging along in 2024. Thank you.
Well, I certainly appreciate all your work. These are tokens from the council thanking you and your board members, and I'll give them to you.
Are you sure I'm trustworthy?
Yeah, and if you will please pass those along, it would be much appreciated, and we do appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. We have a meeting next Tuesday, so I will pass these out next Tuesday.
Cool.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you for your
work.
hard work. We do appreciate it.
And I better not take that.
All right. The next thing on our agenda is DDA Main Street and Hub reports. And I will turn the floor over to Vice Mayor Sanger.
Actually, Pam got here.
Okay. In Pam's absence, which she isn't absent, so I'll turn it over to Pam.
Honorable
Sorry.
Mayor and Council, nope, I had some planned change with weather, so I ended up staying in town. Real quick.
When you have these to pass out, the proper procedure is to either have them here early or to give them to me and I will distribute them. And we're just doing that so that it's consistent, and that is a procedure that is what we're doing, okay?
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and Council, so tonight I just wanted to kind of give you some updates of some things going on. So next week, we have a very busy week at the Hub and downtown. On the 15th, I think you guys have a budget meeting, but we'd love to have you guys come before and after. On 5 p.m., the ribbon cutting for Rawlins Music Academy, and their donor reception starts at 5. Ribbon cutting at 5, and it goes till 7, and then you can come here, and then you can go to pitch night at the Parco Inn for our 5 finalists. And then later on the agenda, we will be approving the MOU for the graduation banners. That's a collaboration that we've been doing. So that'll be, and again, this year, Rocky Mountain Power is our partner with the graduation group. That's really a win-win for everybody. And then after the graduation banners come down, we have a new group of banners, and between the new banners that were just manufactured, the banners from last year from Transwest, and the current banners of the art program, we're going to have almost 80 banners, and we have 110 light poles. So we're getting really close to having a banner on every pole. So yeah. And then in June, we have Super Saturday, which is the sheet I just gave you. It's just we're coming to and just doing projects in the downtown to clean up. Williams is coming. They're going to do a specific project. They're going to take down what we call the peekaboo mural, which is where the kids put their faces for. It's kind of worn and tattered, and so they're going to take it down for us. And Peggy Colson is going to paint us a new one. And then Mortenson's coming to do another big project. So I think HF Sinclair's coming. So we're just kind of laying everybody out, plus volunteers. And then an exciting partnership that's happening between the Hub and Rawlins Music Academy and the Rawlins Times is we're going to have a digital 101 class for any business in Carbon County that wants to come. It'll be held at the Music Academy. I'll have a flyer in June for that. But it's just a free class to learn about digital marketing. And then in July, of course, we have Adventure Fest. And then the last thing I wanted to note to let you guys know about is this is a new publication that just came out from APG. She's getting them out. Christina, the new rep for Rawlins Times, is getting them out. But what's really nice is On the Beaten Path, and it's all Interstate 80. And I just think it's a really nice piece. They started, of course, with Laramie County and then went to Albany County. And there's just some really great, I was just showing Nikki some great things. There's a lot of things in Rawlins. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of Carbon County, lists all of the events, music in the parks, Adventure Fest, talks about the splash pad, the disc golf. So there's a lot of things that the city agencies are in this 10 pages that really celebrates what we, the city staff, are doing. And so if you get a chance, she's going to bring a box to me. But it's just a really nice publication. It kind of reminds me of the whole Explorer that they used to do, but now they're doing it the whole I-80 corridor. I think it's going to be a good piece for the city and what we have to offer. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Any questions?
Councilman Weisenberg.
Splash pad, what's the projected date?
I will be working, Cody and I just started having conversations on the splash pad and trying to, between the water and everything, and how many days, and we'd like to say Memorial Day, but it's been a little cold. But so I hope I'll have an update for you possibly at the next council meeting. But Cody and I have already started our conversations on that. And then we'll do the full marketing on when.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Is it May 16th at what time? Sorry.
The what?
What time was it on this? Oh. I put down May 16th. That was Chief Ward's. I mixed up my night for the pitch night.
Pitch night is at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
At the Parco, next Wednesday night.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Pam.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The next thing on our agenda is the city manager report and staff report. And I'll turn the floor over to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you again, Honorable Mayor and Council. On Sunday night, the city discovered a break in the high-pressure water line that comes between the water treatment plant and the Painted Hills tank. And so tonight, I've invited our Public Works Director, Cody Dill, to give you a few more details about that and the resolution that we've had on that. So,
Honorable Mayor, Council, just come tonight to give you guys a brief update on our recent water breaks that we've had. Like Tom said, on Sunday night, our water treatment crew noticed a loss of water, considerable loss of water in the middle of the night. Too dark to go searching for it, so we shut everything down for the night. Found a break first thing in the morning. We started our dig at about 11 o'clock after our 811s went through. Found a softball size hole in the bottom side of the ductile iron pipe. We put the clamp on it, started our water back up yesterday afternoon. Was looking good. Last night we had water flows upwards to the tank. This morning we discovered that the hole that we had out there was full of water, which was very concerning to us. So we drained it, found another about softball size hole right next to the clamp that we put on. So we installed another clamp right next to it. And as of right now, we have water flowing to the tanks and everything is holding. So we are crossing our fingers. We can go backfill and clean up our site in the morning and continue to flow water. Our tanks are about 13 feet on Painted Hills tank and about 18 feet on Hospital tank, which is very good. So we are don't have any concerns about water levels at this time. But,
I would like to just tell you that you had perfect weather to do this in. I drove by and I felt so sorry for all you guys out there working with water. Your dedication is amazing. The whole crew, y'all need a super big pat on the back. When I drove by, you were still digging, and then later I came by and I noticed that the excavator was parked, and I was thanking God that you guys had gotten it that far. You were still on site, and then to hear that you had to do it again, I just thank you. You guys are awesome, and you deserve a round of applause.
I got to say all the kudos go to our utilities and treatment crew. I mean, for being on top of it, discovering it fast, being out there, being on top of it, making quick work of this. I mean, the guys move fast. They've been around the pipe, I should say, a few times, and they can get this stuff done in a very quick manner now. So I give all the kudos to those guys. Those guys are amazing to work with. They make me look good. So
Yeah.
I appreciate them very much. They're the great ones.
Yeah, every one of them. You make sure to pass that on.
Will do.
They're heroes.
Yeah. Can I help you with anything else tonight?
Please don't have any more leaks, Cody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you, Cody. And we want council to know that that is a priority one project when we start our water line projects. So I'd like to thank council tonight for your participation in our budget exercise that we did a couple Saturdays ago, and for the feedback and the input that we received from council. We are analyzing the results of that right now, and we are looking for consistencies of the different departments, different services that the city has to see where the attention was focused. From that data, I am currently meeting with department heads to go over those results and to look at the areas that we have identified, and we are looking for budget cuts in those areas that we will bring to council. This is a long process, and a lot of things right now we are working through, so I appreciate your patience with that. We had scheduled for tonight a work session on the strategic plan that we did not get ready in time for that work session, so we did not put that on board docs. To have that tonight, we are looking at scheduling that probably in June at this point. And our reasoning for that is that we will start into the 3 readings of the budget. And as we prepare the budget and work on it, we are tying the strategic plan, the projects identified by council in the budget so that we know that they're all there. And we just were not ready for that tonight. The first reading of the budget was scheduled for May 15th. And we have learned that that is the night of the COG meeting in Dixon. So we will move that first reading until May 22nd at, I believe that's at 6 p.m. And that'll be the first reading at a special meeting. From that, we will take the recommendations from council and we will present the second reading at the June 4th regular council meeting. And then the third and final reading then will be at a special council meeting on June 13th. Again, the time to be determined on that, but we know that'll be the 13th as the budget is due by the 15th of June to the Department of Audit. So those are a few dates there, and we will present the strategic plan in the month of June, probably at a work session before a council meeting. That we will go over that. And with that, that's my report tonight.
All right. Thank you, Tom. The next thing on our agenda is City Attorney Report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I do have some updates. I was asked to provide some status updates on a couple of items. The first is on the derelict and abandoned vehicles. Those are, derelict and abandoned vehicles are governed by our nuisance statutes, which is Title 8 and specifically enumerated in 816, Title 8, Chapter 16. Right now, so at 816.020, there is an extensive but inexhaustive list of nuisances. This includes things like sounds that interfere with the quiet, obnoxious and offensive odor, stagnant water, weeds, appliances not utilized for their intended use, and abandoned and derelict vehicles. So the particular ordinance was originally enacted in 1988, and it was amended in 2010. So our current ordinance required the same treatment of all nuisances, which begins with first providing notice of the nuisance to the owner and possessor of the condition, and they are then provided a certain time frame in which to abate it. Our ordinance calls for 10 days, and if that gets abated within that time, well, then it's all fixed. If it extends past that time, well, then they get a misdemeanor ticket. There's also a procedure that allows for a hearing that within those 10 days, the alleged offender can request a hearing. In our ordinances, it is within the municipal, with the municipal judge to determine whether there is or there isn't a nuisance, and then proceed from there. So the big question that I was asked specifically relates to the abandoned and derelict vehicles. Our ordinance has definitions for abandoned and derelict. Essentially, they're not identical, but they are often treated the same because a derelict vehicle often ends up being abandoned. The process of going through with issuing warnings and or ultimately citations falls to our PD or code enforcement. The distinction is our PD handles these violations that are on, whether it's the abandoned vehicles or weeds or whatever. If it's on public property, it goes to, I'm sorry, not weeds, on the vehicles only. If it's on public property, RPD handles it. If it's on private property, code enforcement handles those complaints. And I met with RPD just to understand, briefly to understand rudimentarily how the nuisance violations work in real life. And they follow the ordinance, and it's kind of the ordinance provides both the notification process, which acts both as a courtesy and complies with the ordinance. Hey, here's the violation. And there's been really good cooperation that RPD has found, and code enforcement, with most individuals who have been, provided a warning. And so usually the issues are abated. It's, in my time working with the violations, I have not seen a whole lot of actual citations that actually come about. They're usually ended up being abated. The next issue is if it's a vehicle and it's not abated, there is an abandoned, the impounding process. And that actually is governed by, it's included within our ordinances, but it's actually ultimately governed by state statute under the motor vehicle statute. And there is a very specific process that has to occur. And there's similar but different processes if it's on public property versus if it's on private property. So there has also been good coordination between the RPD and Carbon County Sheriff's Office. There can be a delay in having a vehicle impounded and following up on getting it picked up and removed, just because of timing and the process that they have to go through, which also includes a report and notification to the Wyoming Department of Transportation. So it's kind of a complicated process with several steps, and that's statutorily required. The city's nuisance ordinances as they presently stand are a bit of a mismatched patchwork of the modifications over the years. They're not all consistent, and that's where I think some of the trouble is coming from in regard to some of the concerns, because weeds in regard to our ordinances are treated the same way as an abandoned vehicle. There is an interesting, one of the things that I found that was interesting in how weeds can be treated is there's actually a state ordinance under Title 15 that allows the city manager or his designee to put, have a notice placed, and if they're not abated within 1 day, then citations can ensue, and the city or its designee can abate the nuisance, and the costs associated with the abatement are taxed on the either offending party or the property on which the offense occurred, and follow the process for special assessments with the county. So there's a lien process that's required. Again, it can be a little bit complicated, but there are mechanisms to do this. I also have started reviewing how other municipalities in Wyoming take care of nuisances, whether it's weeds, whether it's abandoned and derelict vehicles. Some of the municipalities handle them within their nuisance ordinances, others within their motor vehicle. Ultimately, it's kind of, it's the same process if it's a motor vehicle. Because no matter what, the state statute needs to be followed in the ultimate abatement and the impounding, as well as the notice requirements. So I have been reviewing what we could possibly do. And it's gonna take a little bit of time to get everything together to really separate all of the pieces that are currently jammed together, weeds and odors and appliances that are being improperly used, and separate those out from the vehicles and all these other things. So I am working on that. So in terms of legal's recommendation, my recommendation is for council's approval to proceed with a revamp of the nuisance ordinances and provide recommendations. And this would be something I would work on with RPD, code enforcement, to make sure that we are doing this both according to statute And where we do have some discretion in how the city does it, that it is actually feasible for our PD to enforce.
There's one particular car that I know of that is parked the wrong direction. It's got an out-of-date license plate. I've complained about it a dozen times. It's still there. This is over a period of, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. That's not acceptable. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I wonder if it's not just being left there to tick me off and it's working like a champ, because it's in our downtown area. It's a half a block off of Main Street. We talk about beautification. We talk about our aesthetics. And here that stupid thing stays sitting there for months on end. I don't get it. There's got to be a solution to get that car and all of them that are in that condition or that situation, but that particular one is one that catches my eye every time it's on our DDA area, for crying out loud. It's a half a block off of Main Street. It's not acceptable. What should we do?
I am happy to follow up on it if you can provide me the location, and I will work with RPD on this.
Okay? I've showed it to Tom 6 times.
Okay.
It's irritating. It really is. I mean, honestly, if that's how it's going to be, I'll just save about $4,000 and not buy any license plates. I'll just park all my stuff on the street downtown. It's irritating. Anyway, you don't deserve it. Don't beat the messenger. I get it. I'm sorry. But it is very frustrating. Vice Mayor Sanger.
So it seems to me we define an illegal weed by its height. It has a very specific height that can be before you have to cut it, and it's illegal at above that height. We don't define abandoned by time. And time is the thing that defines something as being abandoned. And state statute doesn't define that. The ordinance doesn't define that. How are we supposed to know how long something's supposed to sit?
Actually, the ordinance does define, the ordinance and the state statute do define the time, and I can actually provide that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, the code provides the grounds for declaring a vehicle as abandoned, and this is within 816.020. And if a vehicle is left unattended on a public street, highway, alley, parking lot, or other public property within the jurisdictional limits of the city for more than 24 hours after a notice has been placed on the vehicle, provisions to pursuant to the provisions of section 816.030, or the vehicle has been impounded and the notice of impound has been given pursuant to Wyoming statute 3113-101 at sec, and the vehicle has not been claimed, or if the vehicle has been left unattended on private property without the consent of the owner or person in lawful possession thereof. The state statute does have a little bit different definition, but it's similar.
So this car has been parked on the road illegally parked on the road. It's a 2023 license.
Had a flat tire. Had a flat tire for
It had a tag.
It had a tag, it's now gone.
Tag's been removed.
So clearly 24 hours is way gone by. So it's still sitting on the road. Doesn't make any sense that it's sitting on the road.
Councilman Weisenberg.
You said the Wyoming statute is 3113 what?
101 at sec, that
Okay.
governs abandoned vehicles.
Okay, and now what is the city of Rawlins allowed to do with illegally parked vehicles in?
Well, it depends. Illegally parked versus abandoned is a little bit different, but once you meet that threshold of the time, then it could potentially become abandoned under our
But
ordinance.
it's still illegally parked, so what's our illegally parked ordinance state?
I don't have that in front of me, and it'll take me a moment to look that up.
I'm just curious, because if it's illegally parked and falls into a different category, I understand it could fall under the abandoned category with the way it was tagged and stuff like that, but if it's illegally parked, it should still follow the illegally parked ordinance.
Right, and this vehicle with flat tires and old tabs could also potentially fall under the derelict. So it can fall under several things.
But it clearly falls under 24 hours. Regardless of all other things, it falls under the category of 24 hours. Because that's the only definition we have. 24 hours worth of time has elapsed for a year. It is a 23 tag.
If we're talking about the car that I believe we are, it's been tagged and the Rawlins Police has done its job with that car. It's been reported to the Sheriff's Department and it just hasn't been towed by them.
Can we tow it?
The question becomes, do we want to get in the business of towing and storing derelict and abandoned vehicles? My opinion is no. We've done that in the past and it costs an enormous amount of money.
I don't think that we have to be in the business of towing and storing. I think we need to be in the business of making a phone call to a towing company and tell them take that car. And they come and take it to their yard. They charge the customer for the towing. They charge the customer for the storage. We're not liable for the damage done to that car. And the option is to look like a third world country.
I don't disagree. I believe that state law outlines the process for that and gives the authority to the counties and specifically the sheriff to handle the towing and pounding of abandoned vehicles and then the subsequent research of titling and so forth and then disposal.
I understand the sheriff has to run the sheriff's auction because I know the city used to impound them and then have an auction. And then I was a commissioner at the time, and I remember that the law changed to where the city could no longer auction them. With or without title, you had to have a title. In order to get a title, you have to do a sheriff's auction. In order to do a sheriff's auction, you have to do research and such like that. At that time, Jerry Colson was the sheriff, and he had two of his deputies come and basically run the auction for the city, and that cleaned that up. I can understand why we can't sell them. I can understand all of that, but we're not selling them. We just tell a towing company that's an illegal car. It breaks our ordinances. And of course, the sheriff can't enforce city ordinances. That's become very clear. So we can enforce our own by having a tow company remove that car and take it to their lot at their expense and then have the owner of the car deal with them. And I don't understand why we don't use that procedure and keep us out of the storage, out of the situation of being liable for damages to the car if something would happen. That's what they have insurance for. That's what they do. And I just every time I drive by that car, it just makes smoke come out of my ears because people talk about the Pink Motel. That's something we really can't do anything about, really. But there are so many things we can do things about, and we're not doing it. And it makes our town, it's terrible.
I can check with the sheriff's department tomorrow to see the status of when they're going to get it. I do totally agree with what you're saying about how long the car's been there. So I'll call them first thing in the morning. In terms of us towing it to a private lot, I'd have to get Panita's opinion on this, the city attorney's opinion on this, but it may run contrary to what the state law lays out for that process. I am also aware throughout my career, and I know you may have an idea of tow companies that feel otherwise, but my experience is tow companies are not interested in towing vehicles that they're going to incur a cost for that nobody's ever going to come get.
That changed when catalytic converters came along
Yep.
and made cars worth, every car that was built since 1980, worth $200, and that's more than a tow bill.
Yep, I get that. I think
And
that is
parts
the
on
part-
cars have gone straight high.
I think that's the part that runs contrary to the state law that mandates that the county and specifically the sheriff be the one that researches and disposes of the vehicle. So if we had the private company tow it and then sell it themselves, that may not align with what state law says.
Okay, but if they impound it, once they have it for X number of days, they go apply for a sheriff's auction, sheriff's title. They can now, back then you couldn't, but now you can go through that process, get a sheriff's title, and actually not suffer monetarily. You can actually make money doing it.
I'm actually meeting with the sheriff tomorrow. Let me talk to him about those things and then I'll report back to you.
All right, because I'm sick of looking at the damn thing. It just drives me nuts, Chief.
Gotcha.
And if we can't enforce our ordinances, then we need to get rid of them. Because I'm tired of getting chewed out because we're not enforcing our ordinances. And I don't blame people. Who wants to look at that? So I hope it becomes important. Councilman Weisenberg.
So Panita, because this was tagged as an abandoned vehicle, is that where it's gonna have trouble with this possibly too? And why were we tagged as an abandoned vehicle if it's illegally parked and we can take care of our own illegally parked stuff?
Frankly, I haven't done all of the research on this. Part of this is,
Well, let me jump
I'm
in
gonna
real
defer
quick.
to Chief Wood.
Illegally parked vehicles, we do not ever tow unless there's a public safety hazard, like it's blocking a driveway, if it's blocking a fire hydrant. That's been fairly consistent over my entire career, not just in Wyoming, but also where I came from. If a vehicle is parked illegally, the way we handle it is we usually try to get in touch with the owner. If they want to move it and rectify it, we log a warning in the system so that we know we've dealt with this once before. We can also ticket the vehicle, put a citation on the vehicle for being parked illegally, but we don't usually move it unless it's posing a hazard to public safety. So let's say it's parked too close to the corner, it's blocking the line of sight for vehicles that are approaching so they can't safely navigate the intersection. We would tow that because we don't want an accident. Let's say it's in the middle of the block, it's somehow parked illegally in violation of some type of a parking ordinance, but it's not posing a safety risk, we would not necessarily tow that.
That's the problem. It's out of date. The license plate is out of date by a year. It's backed into the curb.
Councilmember Weisenberg was speaking strictly about parking offenses. When we're talking about this is complicated because then you have abandoned vehicles, which the state has definitions for, and derelict vehicles, which the city has definitions for. I believe, Councilmember Weisenberg, you were talking about a vehicle that was properly registered, licensed, insured.
I'm just asking about illegally parked, because is it not illegal to park any vehicle on the street without a license even, right? Correct?
That
If I
then
went and parked my-
becomes
If I
a
went and parked
derelict
my
vehicle.
vehicle on the street
Right.
without license plate, it is not illegally parked, it's just derelict at that time?
There's three different things. Like there's parking violations, which might be blocking a driveway, parking in front of fire hydrant, parking in a no parking zone, parking in a handicap spot when you don't have a handicap tag, parking too close to an intersection and blocking with an otherwise registered, insured, operable vehicle. That's a parking offense.
So you have to be registered, insured legally to have a parking offense?
No, it could still be derelict, but then it's also derelict, which goes into the area of inoperable, unregistered, uninsured. That could still be parked illegally. I just want to make sure we're defining terms so that we're all on the same page.
So
when I
what
talk about parking violations, I am referring to the things that I mentioned. When I'm talking about a derelict or abandoned vehicle, that could also be a parking violation if it's out on the public street. But now we're dealing with a vehicle that has other issues in terms of it's not being operable, not being insured, not being registered.
And is that just because it's an assumption, or you're your assumption of that ordinance, or that's how you perceive that ordinance. Because I could perceive
a little of both.
Because I could perceive it totally different. I could perceive it as if I parked a vehicle on the street without license plates, I'm illegally parked, right? No matter what, if it's in the middle of a block
Yeah, and
or
this
if it's
isn't
blocking
really
a fire.
just about perception.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm
If
sorry.
I'm in the middle of a block or if I'm blocking a fire hydrant, I'm still illegally parked. And if there's an illegal parking ordinance that would allow us to tow something, then that's what we should probably lean forward on and remove some of the scenarios that we have within our city. We should not be trying to take and perceive our own ordinances and just take it as what
Perceiving our own ordinances
we
is
do.
not what we're doing.
So it's your personal opinion that it wasn't illegally parked and it's abandoned, and this is what I got out of this one individual car
You're losing me.
So this individual car, I take it as you all tagged, the police department tagged this.
If we're talking about the same car.
Yes, I'm assuming we are.
Okay.
If you tag that car as an abandoned car is what I'm saying.
Right.
Why did we not perceive it as illegally parked car because it was parked against the flow of traffic? Just because it's not blocking a fire hydrant or less than 40 or closer than 20 foot to the curb or anything of such, don't mean we shouldn't perceive it as an illegally parked car if we could remove something that would help out.
Okay.
It's got to be fixed. That's all I got to say. I absolutely, if you have a vehicle on the city street that doesn't have a current tag, that's got to be a problem. It's got to be a problem, otherwise nobody'd buy license plates. And if somebody put a tag on the window, because somebody did.
We did, probably.
It was an orange one, after about 4 or 5 months. And then somebody took it off, and it's been off for a month. There's not a new one put on. It's still sitting there. And it's not helping our city's beautification, let's just put it that way. It's contrary to every single thing we as a city are trying to accomplish. And so I want you to work with whoever to get that remedied.
Got it.
What are we gonna do?
Anybody
you.
else?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have some other updates that I was asked about. The other also is the urban deer. And I was asked to update on the status of that. So I don't have a complete file in regard to the Urban Deer Advisory Committee, but I do have some historical documentation to provide some background. Legal authority regarding the urban deer lies with the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission and the Chief Game Warden to manage wildlife in Wyoming. Under their authority, the Game and Fish has the discretion to issue what is called a Chapter 56 permit, which allows the taking of big game within city limits, and it's funded by the individual municipalities. The permits must be renewed each year. A municipality must also meet several other requirements before consideration of a permit is made by the Game and Fish. And there is a full list that they have. The requirements for the Rule 56 permits are contained within the Wyoming Game and Fish regulations. I don't have a full record of all of the activities that have occurred, and I was only tasked with looking at a review, so that's where I am right now, although I can follow up as requested. So I only have an incomplete summary of what I've demonstrated that there have been ongoing concerns regarding urban deer in Rawlins. Since at least the late 1990s, there have been numerous concerns, and the city initiated discussions with the Game and Fish back then. In 2002, the matter was then brought before council, and discussions again initiated with the Game and Fish, and directed then City Attorney Susan Lewis and City Manager Dave Darragon to initiate communications. I'm not quite sure where those communications went. All I have are a few letters back and forth. We also heard from Deb Wycombe regarding a tragic incident in 2008. In 2011, the city enacted Rawlins Municipal Ordinance 604180, which prohibits the feeding of wild animals as a step to begin mitigating the issue. And there were, again, some more communications between the city and the Game and Fish Commission in 2012, with communications initiated by then City Attorney Dan Massey. There's probably pieces I'm missing, so I'm just filling in on some of the steps. In 2018, the city again revisited the issue and authorized the creation of the Urban Deer Advisory Committee, and that consisted of a 6-person group of 2 Game and Fish representatives, 2 RPD representatives, 2 citizen representatives, along with an advisory member from the UW Extension Office. The purpose of the committee was to use data to recommend a plan with various control alternatives to the council to decrease the number of urban deer conflicts while maintaining a healthy deer population for all to see and enjoy. In May 2019, the committee presented a comprehensive proposal and plan to cull deer, and which was approved by City Council. There was also a budgetary allocation from the capital reserves made. After that, I'm not quite sure exactly what the numbers were with the culling efforts that did take place. I don't have those full records. But the last committee was established in 2020, and since then, the 2 Game and Fish representatives are no longer in their prior posts. One is retired, the other has relocated to another city. One of the RPD representatives is no longer with the department. So in summary, the committee membership has been depleted, and the committee's been on hiatus for several years. That's the current status of the program. And so in regard to if exploration on the proposals to work with Game and Fish would require the new creation of a committee to continue the efforts.
I can tell you that one of the conditions that have to be met is that the Game and Fish has to approve a taking permit. In order to do that, they do an inventory of the deer herd. There's a certain number of deer that are acceptable and a certain number that isn't. A lot of people think the deer have been here forever, and they haven't been. There was a really bad winter, and a bunch of deer came to town. Everybody thought they were Bambis, and they started feeding them, and they stayed in town. And that has caused an unbelievable problem. They're 200-pound mice that eat every tree, flower, bush. I don't have a privacy fence. I have a deer fence because it killed my dog. And the other day, I can honestly tell you I was afraid that doe was going to take my wife because it was after my dog, and my wife was in between. And I know shooting a firearm in town is not really all that acceptable, but that's where I headed. And the Game and Fish would not have issued these take permits year after year, 3 years in a row, if it wasn't necessary. I guarantee you they wouldn't have issued that. When Cujo got killed, I was railing on one of them, and they said, that's not our deal. It's your town. It's your town. And we need to reinstitute that. In that take permit, it does say that the Game and Fish cannot take an active role in that. In other words, they cannot be part of the team that shoots them or whatever's them. They explained to us they can't shoot them with darts and relocate them because they all have chronic wasting disease here in town. They also pointed out that they can't shoot them with tranquilizers because if a tranquilizer would get lost, bounce off the deer, go wherever, and a child would happen on it, then it would inject that child and kill him. The other thing they said was if they shoot them with tranquilizers to do anything like relocate them or whatever, then they can't eat them. So then it's wanton waste. That's not acceptable either. They won't accept that. The city went through a lot of expense to buy these rifles. and night vision, silencers. What used to happen was they would bait them into the old Outlaw Bowl or up against the uplift into a safer place to shoot them. And that hasn't happened. I went to the first meeting. I left there probably redder in the face than I am right now. I don't like talking about it, but a lot of dogs in our town get stomped by these deer. They have chased people. I have a neighbor lady that a deer chased her around her car 3 times. She ran up to get in her house. The deer was kicking at her. Her son opened the door thinking somebody was knocking. The deer went inside. You know, situation, somebody's going to get hurt. So it is important that we get with the Game and Fish, find out what the qualifications are. We have 2 people that did apply, and we did appoint them to that board, and we need to move forward with that, in my opinion. And unless anybody has an objection to that, that's what I would like to say. Do you have an objection to that, Councilman Weisenberg?
No objection, I just have questions for the attorney.
Yes, sir.
You said the board was made up of 2 Game and Fish that they have since moved on officers, right? 2 police officers. And there's 2 citizens on that board, correct?
Correct, and then there is also an advisory role by the UW Extension Office.
1 UW advisory?
Yes.
So is the UW advisory extension office, is that individual still on a sitting person on that board? Because I do know that the 2 citizens last year before was come forward and appointed. I want to say, I believe it was Mr. Carrico and Mr. Reese, maybe, if I believe correctly. So we still have the 2 citizens. So at this point in time, I mean, do we need to just reach out to Game and Fish, get their local, if there is any local Game and Fish officers here now, get 2 of their representatives, and we need to figure out how to appoint 2 police officers to this committee so we could get this rolling and get bylaws written and everything else to get this moving forward?
Well, I'm not sure if it necessarily requires bylaws. In regard to that, it requires a collaborative, my understanding, and I don't have all of the rules in front of me. I do have the kind of a checklist from the Game and Fish on the 56 permit and what they require, which is a collaborative study with the input from the Game and Fish and citizens. And then what Mayor Wycombe discussed is correct. The Game and Fish does not actually handle any of the
Colon.
They're advisors. They're
Right, they're
advisors.
advisors. All of the actual, the taking is conducted by the municipality at the municipality's expense.
Yes.
There are also other requirements regarding planning for how the testing of the taken animals are, and then
I think
providing for processing and a donation process for those.
And I think that is all in place already. What I'm asking is the 2 Game and Fish officers are no longer in Rawlins. So we need to contact them possibly to get them back on board. We need to get 2 police officers back that are on this committee also. And make sure the UW advisory is Extension Office Advisory employee is still on board with this too. And then find out, I guess, more so of you have to file annually for the 56 permit.
Correct.
But how often do we have to have a study done? Is it annually, or is the original study that they had permitted still good for what?
No, it has to be done annually, because what they do, Councilman Weisenberg, I'm very intimate with this, okay? What they do is they basically drive around and count deer. And from that, they decide, is it herd levels, just like they do out in the country. And they inventory them, and then they come with a recommendation. Like the last one, I believe the city was authorized to take 50 of them, I believe, and they ended up with 23. 3 of them were not edible. The rest of them were taken to a processing plant where they were processed, and families put their name in. They were families that were in need, put their names into a drawing, a lottery type setup, and their names were drawn, and they're the ones that got the meat once it was processed. Yes, ma'am.
I think if you get a hold of the old members, I'm sure it's somewhere in our records, or perhaps Lynn would know offhand who those people are, because they also had quite a bit of information that they were gathering to see if culling of the deer actually worked, those type of things.
It was Chris Otto and Diana Espy.
Yes.
Were the 2 that I met with,
But-
and that's where I got a lot of my knowledge from.
Okay. But if you get a hold of them, I think they'd be able to tell you, because a lot of the questions that you're asking, as far as the history of this particular group, they have all that information. And would be able to maybe give you a clearer idea of why they disbanded, not just because people moved away. I think they felt that the city didn't have, wasn't supporting them anymore.
That is
You
not
asked
it.
them.
That is not the case. The case was that we got a new chief of police that refused to do it and
Part of the
refused to let
city.
his officers participate.
Part of the city.
And,
That's what I meant.
but that's what I'm telling you. I was at that meeting, and
Anyway, I would just talk to them. So you're gonna do more research on the deer and more research on for the vehicles, correct?
There is I believe there's a comprehensive collection of minutes, notes, and all of the action items and questions that has
Okay.
been collected. So it does
Good.
exist. So I
Okay.
won't have to recreate the wheel there. Just
Good.
in my own personal archives, this is all I have.
Okay.
And I don't mean personal, but the city attorney's office. And I have not had the opportunity to review all of the other documentation. But if council would like to authorize the reestablishment of the committee, we can certainly get started with that.
Councilman Garner?
I'd like to clarify some things about that meeting. The chief at the time never said he wasn't going to do the culling. He was against culling with high-powered rifles within the city limits because of the dangers that it presented and the liability that the city took on by doing that. He was open to finding new solutions to the culling with that group, and that's where that went from there. So, he wasn't gonna do it. He absolutely was on board to find a better way, a safer way for us to do this. So,
Councilman Garner, you weren't at that meeting. You were not even at that meeting, just so you know.
okay, you know everything, right?
I know quite a bit. I was at the meeting.
Point of order.
That's how I know.
Point of order.
Point of order. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Can we move on now?
Please.
All right, moving on. Is there anything more?
I do have one other short update. I'm sorry. This is the Urban Systems Advisory Committee. And there was, last meeting that the committee had was on April 22nd. And there was some discussion on updating the bylaws. And currently, the bylaws are included within the municipal ordinances at section 2.56, I think. History on the Urban Systems Committee, which is, I wanted to look into to understand how this was. YDOT initiated the Urban Systems Committee in Rawlins in 1981 as a collaborative agreement to obtain public input on transportation-related improvement projects, funded by YDOT with funding coming from the federal government. And in 1981, WYDOT designated 17 Wyoming municipalities with populations over 5,000 to be eligible for this program. The designation is now down to 16 municipalities because one municipality fell underneath that 5,000 population threshold. So right now, the way that the urban systems works with WYDOT is that every year, each municipality receives approximately $155,000 to be used on transportation-related projects. So it doesn't sound like a lot, and because these projects can be pretty huge. So municipalities are allowed to bank that money until they have enough funds, they've done the research, and they find a project. So it's actually, that's one of the things that Rawlins is currently doing, because there is currently a pedestrian underpass project that is in the works. And Councilman Garner can actually speak more to that, and I think he updated at the last meeting on this project. The reason I bring this up now is because of those bylaws issues. And recently met with Julie Moynihan, who is the representative from WYDOT, and she manages the urban systems programs around the state. Rawlins is the only municipality that has these bylaws as an ordinance. And it's a very odd situation because it is a 15-member committee with city members, county members, WYDOT members, and so because of, plus another 5 advisory positions that are administrative and advisory. So it's a huge committee, and the challenge right now is that to get these projects moving as they are currently governed, the committee is governed as with an ordinance for these bylaws, is creating challenges to keep the process moving freely when it's really a WYDOT program rather than a city program. And so the proposal is actually to repeal the bylaws out of the ordinance, allow the committee to be a standalone committee because it is an intergovernmental and interagency committee, and just allow them to create their own bylaws and operate freely that way. So this is something that's coming down the pipe. We just wanted to update council on this, that what we're looking to do is potentially repeal with council's approval, repeal the ordinance, allow standalone bylaws, and then continue the committee as it's handled in all the other municipalities through WYDOT. As just an update on what we're looking to do. But before anything is repealed, want to have the next meeting, which is in July, and discuss adopting those bylaws as standalone bylaws, and then separately repeal the ordinance later, so that there's always at least something governing in the interim.
Councilman Weisenberg?
So if this was repealed and they had standalone bylaws, who regulates those bylaws or approves those bylaws in which the communities are involved? Would it go to all communities that's involved within this and WYDOT, or is it strictly going to be WYDOT approving the bylaws at a state level?
My understanding on the bylaws is each individual committee adopts their bylaws. The Rawlins Committee consists of 15 members from various agencies, county, WYDOT, as well as those other 5 advisors. So there's actually 20 people on that board. And the bylaws are all kind of the same, and they are suggested with minor changes by WYDOT, because the ultimate operating agreement is a WYDOT operating policy in order to facilitate those transportation projects.
When speed limits, where to put stop signs, slow children, such like that. And I don't know who was sitting when Judy Dixon, who was part of that committee, came and explained to us that that wasn't really being used properly. The Urban Systems Committee main function is to coordinate between the city and the state on state-driven projects, like rebuilding of our overpass, like our underpass, some of those things. But as far as like yield signs or whatever, that's not, we were using it wrong.
Right, that's my
And-
understanding. That's why they
Yes.
want to move it towards that misunderstanding to a more of a standardized, consistent structure that they do across the state.
And I think that's a great idea, because the way that committee functions now versus the way it has historically functioned is totally different. So I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions? And then that is the end of my legal update. Does anybody have any other questions for legal?
Anybody? Okay. Next thing on our agenda is direction from the city council to the city manager. Does anybody have anything? Vice Mayor Sanger.
This is not direction, Tom. This is congratulations to your wife for her graduating. What did she graduate with?
A bachelor's in psychology
From clear across the country.
from the University of Southern New Hampshire.
She needs that to live with him.
So we were just in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Well, tell her congratulations from all of us.
Yes.
Yep.
I will do that. Thank
That
you.
is awesome.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman
I
Newman.
just have a question. I want to make sure I get all the dates for the meetings clear. So May 21st, we have our regular meeting. We won't have a work session. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
No.
What is that?
I don't know. We
We-
might have a work session. If the work session is there on board docs, it will be released, but it
we
might
are-
be. And Cody, and you.
We are working on a work session about the FEMA floodplain.
Okay.
We are working on that, because we would like to bring an update to council.
Okay.
We don't know yet if that is the night.
All right.
One other thing, there was a question directed to you last time about the agenda being put out. The mayor sets the agenda. It should have been directed towards me, and I'm sorry, I slept right through it. From now on, the agendas will come out on Friday, and the reason for that is because there is just so much going on in our city that we're having to write an agenda and then rewrite the agenda, and it's causing a duplication of work. In order to put out an agenda, there is a lot of research, supporting documents, and so forth. So to make sure that we're not slowing down the progress of our city, since the reason we have a city council meeting is the business of the city, the agendas will now be put out on a Friday. And I would like to thank Lynn, because last time she actually, it was such a complex agenda, she did actually work Saturday and put it out, so thank you, Lynn. But they will, from now on, be put out on Friday.
Can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you. May 22nd, 6 o'clock for first reading.
That's correct.
Okay. June 4th, second reading
Yes, and that is during the council meeting, right?
during the council meeting. So is there a work session on June 4th?
Not that we have scheduled as of yet.
Okay. And June 13th, 6 o'clock, last reading.
Correct.
All right, just want to make sure I got it.
A lot of dates.
Okay, anything else? Councilman Garner.
To Tom and Cody, could we get a recommendation, if we can even do this, for a street project this year? If we can start one, if we have the funds. If we can't, can we make this, or, well, I guess we won't know next year, but try to make this a priority that we get one of these going? I know it's May now. I'm not sure how fast we could get one put together and if it could even get completed in time for the season. But for the last three meetings, I've asked about just doing some type of street project. And maybe if we could see which one, if we could knock one out, like that would be maybe not the largest one if we don't have the funds for it, but if we can get one going this year, that would be awesome. If not, then I'd just like to see if it's possible.
Thank you.
Councilman Weisenberg?
To piggyback on Councilman Gardner's stuff, can we see where we're at with the engineering of the Edinburgh Street and the funds for the, out of the 6 penny? Where we're at there and see the cost estimate of everything. And I'll just, I mean, I just want to see that, and I'll visit with some other stuff on that a little bit later on that 6 penny and that Edinburgh Street project. So
Sure, we will bring that next council meeting.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, moving on to new business. Item A, approval of the minutes of April 16th. Councilman Weisenberg?
I move to approve minutes of April 16th, 2024, regular city council meeting as presented.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 16th, 2024, regular city council meeting as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is item B, minutes of April 25th. Vice Mayor Sanger?
I move to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2024, special city council meeting as presented.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2024, special city council meeting as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 4 yeas and 2 abstain. The 2 abstain with Councilmember Gardner and Councilmember Lumen.
All right. Excuse me, yes?
Mayor, if everybody could just do a refresh, because I did add E in for the 24-hour permit, you will have it, and then that way you will be able to vote on that. And you should have all the documentation in there as well.
I'll try.
Thank you. Did it all work?
Yes,
It's on.
Thank you.
I did.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, is everybody ready to move on? All right, next thing on our agenda is item C. Councilman Weisenberg?
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with Carbon County School District 1 for Rawlins High School and Victory High School 2024 graduation banners.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding with Carbon County School District 1 for Rawlins High School and Victory High School 2024 graduation banners. Is there any discussion? Councilman Weisenberg?
I was just gonna to talk about this real quick, and Jenny Saunders couldn't be here tonight, so she had talked to me about it a little bit. So this is just like a thing that started during COVID, and they've continued it. The kids like it. They are banners are actually sponsored by Rocky Mountain Power this year, and they're going to even be installed by Rocky Mountain Power. So they're just going to hang on the light poles in the DDA district on downtown. So it's something that they're doing annually now, it seems like, in recognition of the kids. It's a good idea. So
I agree. Pam?
Honorable Mayor and Council, I also want to thank you, Chris. I also want to just give a big kudos to our city attorney and our city clerk. We need to continue, it is a volunteer parent committee that does this, and they change every year, and so we were a little crunched this time, not the usual timeline. So there were some tight deadlines that our city attorney and the city clerk was very conscious of, and I just appreciate both of you guys for making this work for our kids. I wanted you as council to know that we're always a team, and these two ladies stepped up to make this on your agenda tonight.
Yep, we do appreciate them.
Yeah, very appreciated. Maybe, I don't know, is there some way we can reach out to the school earlier to see what they're gonna do? Because you never know if the parents are gonna get sponsors for doing it. And
yeah, and that's the problem. We're gonna put a tickler again on it. We talked about when we were reviewing it from an attorney standpoint that we did quite a few changes this year. But the problem is we had also even talked about that it could be just a standing resolution from you guys. But that, I guess I'm always looking at liability, that who's going to hang them, because if it's not going to be Rocky Mountain Power. So we did talk about just doing a freestanding one, and then we wouldn't have to worry and have the push. So I think I'll just make sure, if I haven't heard from the parent committee by April 1st, that I just contact them. So, yeah.
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next item is item D. I would entertain a motion. Councilman Weisenberg.
I move to approve the extension to the restaurant concessionaire agreement of the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant with Edgar Wynn Heyman and the City of Rawlins for an additional period commencing on May 16th, 2024 and ending on May 31st, 2024.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the extension to the Rawlins, or to the restaurant concession, to the restaurant concessionaire agreement of the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant with Edgar Wynn Heyman and the City of Rawlins for an additional period commencing on May 16th, 2024 and ending on May 31st, 2024. Is there any discussion? And would somebody like to explain?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. The reason for this short extension, it's only for 15 days, is to just extend the current contract that actually ends on May 15th. The issue was a completely understandable and reasonable misunderstanding to the end date of the contract. The original contract had an end date of May 15th. However, the signatures were signed in June, so there was a misunderstanding by Mr. Heyman that June was the operative date. And we actually have a meeting tomorrow to discuss the renewal and our meeting to finish negotiations and get all of the documents in place. So this is just to kind of an intermediary agreement just to let him continue operations as they have been.
Bridge the gap.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, the next thing on our agenda was an addition made under item E. Vice Mayor Sanger.
I move to approve a 24-hour catering permit for Rifleman Club Bar LLC, doing business as Rifleman Club Bar, liquor license number 59, to cater a concert performed by Fat Bottom Boys at the Parco Sinclair Historical Theater, Sinclair, Wyoming, on Friday, May 17th, 2024.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve a 24-hour catering permit for Rifleman Club Bar LLC, DBA Rifleman Club Bar, liquor license number 59, to cater a concert performed by Fat Bottom Boys at the Parco Sinclair Historical Theater, Sinclair, Wyoming, on Friday, May 17th, 2024. Is there any discussion? I have one item. I would like to know, do these people understand that they need to ask ahead of time, and has that been made clear, Lynn?
Yes, I have spoke to Mr. Hellman about this. He called me on, was it yesterday or today? I talked to you, anyways. He called me today and he wanted to get on the agenda. And I asked him when the item was that he was catering for, and he said the 17th. And I explained to him, I said it has to be the week before the council meeting. I have to have agenda items. I have to have it Tuesday or Wednesday before the council meeting to make this happen. So he said he'd apologize, and I forgot to reach out to him this afternoon. I called him later this evening, and he wasn't able to make tonight's meeting. So I forgot to call him.
Well, I know he had a special meeting, but he had shoulder surgery and whatnot, and I understand that, but
he didn't give me an explanation.
these crises we have to quit. So,
as a follow-up, if I may, Lynn and I, the city clerk and I are working on proposals to that process. And we've been reviewing how other municipalities in the county do this, and they have timing deadlines and additional fees if they're not provided within a certain time frame. And so those are some of the ways some of the other municipalities handle these issues. And we're aware that it is a problem in regard to the agenda notification, as well as if there's insufficient time provided, necessitating a special meeting for council and the additional legwork that goes into getting that coordinated. So it is something that we are in the works on and would like to present to you here in the near future.
okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Is there anything else that needs to come before this body? With that, I will adjourn this meeting. The next meeting will be May 21st, 2024, which is a work session and regular city council meeting starting at 6 p.m. The next one is May 22nd, 2024, which is a special council meeting starting at 6 p.m. Correct? All right. Thank you.